Good afternoon, this is Peter Estes of Valley CAD. Wanted to give you guys a quick 10-minute video here, and as I've stated in other videos, I absolutely love seeing how people utilize SOLIDWORks. Possibilities are truly endless with it. I utilize it for designing everything from designing shower heads and sunglasses to designing industrial equipment to making helicopter parts, car parts, or full frame assemblies. The possibilities are truly endless when you start working in SOLIDWORks, and absolutely love this software, if you guys can't tell already. One other thing that I love doing in SOLIDWORks, and also just appreciate other people being able to do, are actually optical illusions. When I'm in between projects or have a little bit of downtime, I like trying to figure out how can I model this item and kind of give it so it kind of tricks your brain a little bit. I love seeing it. And if you go on Google, you will see other people have examples of it or pictures of items that they've made in SOLIDWORks that kind of just trick your brain just slightly. And so I always get a kick out of those sort of things. So I wanted to hop on here and show you guys some optical illusions that I've made, and some of them are based off from what I've seen other people make as well. And so without much further ado, let's look at this. All right, so the first one I want to show you guys is actually this one right here. It looks like two vertical posts here, two lateral posts, and then this one that's coming off at a diagonal. Now this one that's coming off at an angle here, there's something a little unique about this. It's saying that it's coming out from this front face of this left post, but it's coming out, well, it's going into the back side of this right post, and it's extending out beyond. But it looks like, looking at these planes here, these two vertical posts are equal to each other, and also that's what these two lateral posts are saying to us too. So it's kind of like, wait, what's going on here? So these are the typical optical illusions that I absolutely love. It just tricks your brain a little bit, and you have to look at it again, and I always like looking at it and kind of dissecting on it. So let's take a look at it. So what I like to do here is I'm going to show you guys each extrusion that I did here. As you can see in my feature manager design tree, I just used a rollback bar here to go back in time. If you've ever taken a class from me, I always like to call this your DeLorean. It's your Back to Future portal, you know. So looking at this, I'm going to go ahead and go into our first feature here. So starting off, what I did here was I just did a simple boss extrude off of my front plane, and I extruded it out roughly 4 inches here. So these are actually going to be coming out at 4 inches squared. Okay. From inside to inside is 20 inches, and they are 36 inches tall. Okay, go ahead and get out of that. And what I did next, I'm just going to go in isometric view, is I actually brought in my two lateral posts. And these two lateral posts are actually going to be 2x4s. So simply 2 inches by 4 inches. I just did this out of beech wood, or the beech material that SOLIDWORks has. To quickly change material, it's not hard to do. You just simply right click on it. These are your your favorites. You can customize these however you see fit. I just simply right clicked and pulled it up. The other aspect here is you can go to edit material, and if you have not looked into this, SOLIDWORks and their engineers have done a phenomenal job on going through and specifying all these different materials that you can apply to your parts. And each material, they went through and they gave their elastic modules, Poisson's ratio, shear modules, mass density, so you can actually get really close to accurate properties of each material. So you can do your flow simulation or your stress simulations. You can also see how much is this part going to weigh. So it is awesome, and the guys at SOLIDWORks have done a phenomenal job with this. And so looking at this a little bit further, or diving back into our model, I should say, the top post is 6 inches from the top here. And what I did here for the bottom post was I just simply drew a construction line across the middle of our vertical post, and I just mirrored it over to the other side. No need in coming in and putting in more dimensions. I always use the acronym of KYSS, K-Y-S-S. Keep your sketches simple. And it's how you should model in SOLIDWORKS at all times. So looking at this, it's 6 inches from the top, 2 by 4. Simply drew construction lines to fully define my bottom aspect as well. Okay, so now moving on, we're going to go to boss extrude number 3. And boss extrude 3, you're going to see that I just did a simple little nub extrusion. That's a 4 by 2 as well, and it's 1.5 inches from the bottom post. Now you'll probably see these dimensions here and go, all right, something's different here. It's this little e. This little e is actually called an epsilon symbol, and it's a Greek symbol. SOLIDWORKS utilizes this to flag when a dimension is driven by an equation. And so you'll see here that the 2 and 4 dimensions have this epsilon symbol. And so what it's saying here is that this dimension here is actually being driven by the dimension that is in my D2 at sketch 2. So what's D2 at sketch 2? Well, when you model in SOLIDWORKS, every single line, every single dimension gets a name. And so you'll see here that I got this 2-inch dimension here. By me just clicking on it, you'll see here my properties that this is called D2 at sketch 2. Now I could simply say, let's just call this width at sketch 2 and say OK to that. If I do that and I come back into my sketch 3, you'll see that this guy now says width at sketch 2. So this dimension is being driven by the dimension in my previous sketch of sketch 2, and that dimension is now called width. So I'll simply OK to that. The same thing also happened to my 4 dimension. This is being driven off of D3 at, D1 at sketch 2. Okay? So utilizing equations is extremely useful in SOLIDWORKS. I always recommend utilizing equations. Once you make an equation, you'll see in your design tree here that you got an equations manager. And so it's manage equations, and these are all my equations utilized in my SOLIDWORKS part file so far. Okay, so now moving on down back to the future here, you'll see that I got this other post coming out. And this post is got some equations driven on as well. This 1.5 inch dimension is actually driven off from our sketch 3 1.5. Okay, so it's just keeping everything uniformed on it. And so if I ever change this, sketch 3, if I change this from 1.5 to let's say 2, this will update as well. And if you don't believe me, here you go. So we'll say 2 inches. Press Control Q for a rebuild. You'll see that this just grew to 2 inches. I'm just going to push Control Z to get it back to where it was. Okay, so now that we got that, I simply extruded this out 19.0262 inches. There's no rocket science to this or anything. That's just the dimension that I found to work in this application. If you change any angles on here, or not angles, but dimensions on here, your distance of this is going to have to get updated as well. Okay, so looking at this, we can say, all right, something still does not seem right here, and that's because of this flat face is visible. The next feature that I applied was actually cut extrude. And what that did here is it created an angled cut on this body, and that gives it the illusion that, hey, when I angle this just right, you'll see it that it lines up nicely with this other piece up front, and it's also in line with this edge for the most part. You have to take a little bit more massaging on it, but you know, you get the point of it there. Now, something's unique about this sketch here, because I had to figure out the angle for this cut. And you know, if I ever make any changes to other dimensions here, you're going to go, man, I don't know how to calculate that angle. Don't worry, SOLIDWORKS is here to make you dumber by the day. So looking at this sketch here, if you notice, I don't have any dimensions whatsoever on this. Everything is driven off of construction lines and relations that are utilizing existing geometry, which I already have dimensions on. So looking at this, I just simply drew a construction line that came off from this point, actually right here, and I drew it all the way back to this back corner. That makes it to where if I ever shorten this or if I make any of these other posts a longer dimension, this angle will automatically update with that. That way I don't have to sit here and try to calculate, man, what angle is this going off as? So after I create that cut and say okay to this, I ended my part by doing a combine feature. We'll show combine a little bit later in other videos. So once again, once I start aligning this properly, get it pretty close here, you'll see that when you first glance at this, you go, wow, how did that post start sticking out like that? So this was just a short little video. I went over the 10-minute mark, sorry. We're here at 10 minutes and 51 seconds, 52, 53, 54, and you get the point. So like I said, I just wanted to do short videos here for you. This is just a little fun project. Like when you're working in SOLIDWORKS and you're just crunching on getting a project done, sometimes it's nice just taking a break and remembering, wow, I enjoy this software. It's super powerful, and I get to make whatever I'm thinking ultimately. And so I absolutely love this software, as you guys can tell. I've said that multiple times already in this short video already, and you'll probably hear it as I do more videos as well. So if you guys got any further questions, or if you got some examples of optical illusions that you've made in SOLIDWORKS, feel free to shoot them our way. We'd love to do another video here showing other examples on it. Just a quick show on some other examples of optical illusions that I've done. This one's called a Mobius flat, and all it is just two simple sweeps. And what's unique about it is, so here we are coming on the inside edge, coming down and around, and now it becomes the outside edge. Outside edge comes up and around, now it becomes the inside edge. Mobius flat are super fun to do. And then the other one that I have, this one's a little more complicated. It takes quite a few more features, including surface features. But what this is, it's an endless design. It's kind of like a Mobius, where if we look at this extrusion is coming down, coming around, coming over, coming around, coming up, over, back and forth, coming back. Now it starts all over again. So that's what makes these things really fun. And if we also look at it, you know, you change the angle on however you want to look at this, and it looks different every single time. So like I said, I love doing these sort of things in SOLIDWORKS. Please shoot them our way. You can email me, peter.estes@valleycad.com. Check us out online. We are valleycad.com. Continue to follow us on Twitch, subscribe to us, and hopefully you have a great rest of the day. Always remember, go out and learn something new.